install was filmed with an early release bike. Sometimes these bike designs change over time, so please check the description below to see if we've listed any changes. G'day, Mark from Mustard Bikes here. We're in the workshop today with the new for 2021 CF-MOTO 300 SR. CF-MOTO have come a long way with their design in recent years, enlisting the design house Kiska that's owned by KTM. But one thing they still didn't quite get right was that rear fender. So we're going to improve on that with one of our tail tidy kits. We're going to show you how to fit it from start to finish. Before we get started though, we're going to need some tools. To get the job done, you're going to need a 13mm spanner or socket, a 17mm spanner, a 10mm spanner, a Phillips head and a flat blade screwdriver, as well as a 4mm Allen key and a pair of side cutters. Oops, and a 5mm Allen key. You'll need that too. In the box, you'll find the video card that directed you to this video, a small bag with a couple of nuts and bolts and cable ties, our cover for the rear fender, the mounting bracket for the tail tidy, and in the very bottom of the box, the tail tidy itself. In the nuts and bolts, you'll find two M8 countersunk bolts, two M6x12 button head bolts, two M6 nylocks, and 200mm cable ties. Now we've got all our tools together, we're going to start using our Phillips head screwdriver to remove the two screws located underneath the rear fender. Next, remove the two push pins also underneath the rear fender. To do this, pry out the centre of the pin and pull downwards. We can now remove the cover from underneath the rear fender. To remove the rear fender, we need to remove the 4 bolts holding it in place with a 13mm socket. We can now remove the fender by pulling back here and unclipping this top cover. We then just need to feed this wiring through. Once we've got that through, rest it on the back wheel. We can now use our side cutters to snip this cable tie on the little cover. I'm going to pull the cover up, which gives us access to all the plugs. And we can simply undo all of these plugs. And with that, the rear fender is disconnected from the bike. We're now ready to start work on the tail tidy. If you're fitting the stock indicators though, we're going to have to remove those first. To remove the indicator, we need to remove these nuts using our 17mm spanner. We then just pull this wire through the tail and then back out through here. And that's one of the indicators removed. Now when we refit these to the tail tidy, we want to make sure that we get the same indicator on the same side. Of course, we can remove the other one in the same process. We then take our tail tidy and mount the right indicator that came off the right side of the stock fender to the right side of the tail tidy. And this goes on simply in the reverse process of removing them. So we start with the flat washer, then the split washer and the nut. Pull those all the way through. Make sure that the indicator's engaged properly and do that up. And then we can take our 17mm spanner and do that up nice and tight. And then of course we do the same to the other side. With both indicators fitted, we're just going to unravel this LED bolt wire, and then we can fit this part to the mounting bracket. To fit it to the mounting bracket, we're going to mount it up like this. And then we just line up these holes and put one of these M6x12 bolts through them. On the other side of those, we then of course put on the nylock nut. This can be a little bit tricky because it is tight in there. And do that to both sides. We can then take our 4mm Allen key and our 10mm spanner to do those up. Before we fit this to the bike, we're just going to tidy up some of this wiring here. We're going to take the LED bolt wire, you're just going to run that down through the pre-fitted cable tie here. We'll do that one up. We'll take our side cutters and trim the tail off that one. Next, we're going to take this indicator wire and the LED bolt wire. We're going to feed those through the front here till we have a bit of a loop. Once we've got that loop, we're going to run one of the cable ties through this little hole here, underneath the two wires and back through there. And we're just going to start doing up this cable tie, but we're not going to pull it tight just yet. We then feed these wires back through so the loop's gone. And then do this cable tie up. And we can then cut the tail off that. And we do a similar thing with the indicator wire from the other side. Run the loop through the other hole, through the top here. Do this one up, pull it through, and do up the cable tie. Lastly, we're going to take all of these wires, all three of them, and run them through this cable tie here that's been pre-installed. And do that one up as well. So we're just going to spread these wires apart down here and do that one up. Cut the tail off that, and this assembly is now ready to fit to the bike. Before fitting the tail tidy, we need to adjust some wiring under the pillion seat. So we're going to remove the pillion seat. We're then just going to pull the wiring loom out that went to the rear fender, which you'll see is this one attached to here. And we're going to feed that, instead of through the round hole, the next gap further up, which is just under here. I'm going to feed that out towards the back of the bike. We can now reconnect the tail tidy to the wiring that we just fed through, using the colour coding on the wires to match the correct ones up. So green goes to green, the double green is for the indicators, and then the orange to orange for the indicator, blue to blue for the indicator, and then lastly we need to put the LED bolt in, which is black to green and red to brown. We can then pull down the dust cover and cable tie it back in place with the last remaining cable tie. Next we'll feed this wiring up into the tail here, so keep it all out of the way, and we can position the tail tidy on the bike. Now to do that, we're just going to have to feed it up into the side here on both sides. Again, just making sure all that wiring goes in. It's going to take a little bit of wiggling. There we go. And that should now stay in place. Next, fit the two countersunk M8 bolts to the forward two most holes. In the rear two holes, we use two of the original bolts and our 13mm socket to finish bolting the tail tidy up. To finish off the undertail, we're going to take the cover that was in the kit and put that in place where the original part went. We're then going to take one of the original screws from the original cover, and we're just going to screw that in the hole in the middle on the end here. So just using your Phillips head screwdriver, screw that in place, and that'll hold the cover in place. And then take the two original push clips, we're going to reinstall those as shown into the two holes on the underside. Not much remaining to finish the job, but before we go on, there's a really important test to do. Just put your key in the ignition, and then turn the ignition on, and then check that both your indicators are working on the correct side as you change them, that your number plate light is working, and that the brake light's working. Now, this bike has not yet gone through its pre-delivery, so unfortunately it doesn't have a battery in it, so we can't show you this. If your LED bolt doesn't work, most likely the polarity is back to front, so you'll just need to swap those two wires over to get it working properly. We can now refit the pillion seat, and of course your number plate. It's a really good idea after you've gone through a few rides, just go over the whole installation and check all the nuts and bolts and make sure they're still tight. We hope this video has helped with your installation. If you haven't yet purchased this product and you'd like to, mustardbikes.com. We have a whole range of tail tidies for a whole range of bikes. Don't forget to tag us in your Instagram photos. Come and like us on Facebook. We love hearing from our customers. Thanks for watching. Until next time. Oops.